The great chamber floated in the darkness of space, spinning slowly around a dying star. Inside, representatives from 300 different worlds sat in their designated seats. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few had nothing but pure energy holding their forms together. They were the Galactic Council, and they had ruled this part of space for 10,000 years. Today, they were talking about humans. One stood at the center of the chamber, his blue diplomatic uniform looking plain compared to the exotic appearances around him. He was nervous, but tried not to show it. This was humanity's first time being discussed by the Council, and he knew how important this moment was. "Honorable members," one began, his voice steady. "Humanity asks only for a chance to prove ourselves worthy of joining your great civilization. We bring new ideas, new art, and new perspectives." A tall creature with 6 arms raised one limb. Its name was, and it came from a race that had been in the council for 3,000 years. "New ideas," his voice echoed through the chamber. "We have reviewed your history, human. Your species has been at war for most of your existence. You have destroyed countless members of your own kind. You poisoned your own planet and nearly made it unlivable." One felt his heart sink, but he pushed forward. "Yes, we have made mistakes, but we learned from them. We united our world, we stopped the wars, we healed our planet. Isn't that growth? Isn't that exactly what the Council values?" Another voice spoke up, this one belonging to a creature that looked like a floating jellyfish made of blue light. "Growth. You call it growth, but we call it danger. In just 200 years you have spread to 14 worlds. You multiply too fast. You consume too much. You change everything you touch." "Change isn't always bad," one argued. "We can bring fresh energy to the galaxy. We can help solve problems that have existed for too long." Made a sound that might have been laughter. "That is exactly what worries us, human. You do not understand stability. You do not understand order. Your kind thrives on chaos and conflict. We have built a peaceful galaxy over thousands of years. We will not let your species destroy it." The debate went on for hours. One tried everything he could think of. He showed them human music and art. He explained human philosophy and dreams. He talked about human children and their hopes for the future. But with each argument, the council members seemed more convinced that humans were dangerous. Finally, the vote was called. One watched as the massive display board lit up with the results. Green lights meant acceptance. Red lights meant rejection. The chamber filled with red. "The vote is complete," announced the council leader, an ancient being that looked like a tree made of crystal. 287 members vote to classify humanity as a valid target. 13 members vote against. The motion passes. One felt the blood drain from his face. "Valid target, what does that mean?" Answered, and there was no kindness in its voice. "It means, human, that your species has been judged too dangerous to exist alongside civilized races. It means that the Council authorizes any member species to take action to eliminate the human threat. It means your time is over before it truly began." "You can't do this," one said, his voice shaking with anger and fear. "We are people. We have families, dreams, lives worth living. You can't just decide to wipe us out because we're different from you." "We can and we have," the council leader said. "This session is concluded. Human vessel, you will be escorted out of council space. We suggest you use your remaining time to make peace with your fate." One was led back to his small ship by armed guards. They were polite but firm. As he sat in his pilot's chair, his hands trembling, he activated his communication system. He knew the council would probably block or intercept any message he tried to send, but he had to try. He typed quickly, using an old encryption code that humanity had developed decades ago. The message was simple. "They're coming, prepare for everything. Valid target declared. No time." He hit send and waited. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a small green light blinked on his console. "Message sent. Relief flooded through him, but it lasted only a second. His ship's alarm started screaming. 3 Council warships had appeared around him, their weapons charging. One understood immediately. They weren't going to let him leave. They couldn't risk him warning Earth. He thought about his wife, Hay-One, back on Earth. They had been married for just 2 years. He thought about his little sister, who was studying to be a doctor. He thought about all the humans back home, living their lives, having no idea that the galaxy had just sentenced them to death. One closed his eyes and waited. The weapons fired, and in a flash of bright light, he was gone. His ship broke apart into 1,000 pieces, floating silently in the cold darkness of space. Far away on Earth, Admiral Sang-Ho received the encrypted message. He read it 3 times, unable to believe what he was seeing. Then he picked up his phone and made the first of many calls. Within an hour, every military base on Earth and in the colonies was on full alert. They didn't know when the attack would come. They didn't know how many ships the Council would send. But they knew one thing for certain. Humanity had been backed into a corner, and when humans had no choice left, they became something different, something fierce. In her lab on Mars, Engineer 1 was working late when the alert came through. She read the message and immediately began pulling up specifications for the colony's fusion reactors. Her hands moved quickly across her keyboard, making calculations, checking numbers. If they were coming to destroy humanity, she thought, then humanity would make them pay for every meter of space they took. Across human space, from Earth to the furthest colonies, people received the news. Some cried, some raged, some sat in stunned silence, but all of them understood that everything had changed. The stars that had once seemed full of promise now held only threat. The Council had made their decision. They had called humanity a valid target. They would soon learn why that was a mistake. The warning came 3 days later. Long-range sensors picked up the fleet when it was still 2 weeks away from human space. 300 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of metal fish swimming through the darkness. Admiral Sang-Ho stood in the command center deep under Tokyo, watching the sensor data appear on the massive screens. Around him, officers from every nation on Earth worked side by side, their old differences forgotten in the face of this new threat. "How long until they reach the outer colonies?" Sang-Ho asked. "New Seoul will be first," replied Captain Min, his tactical officer. "They'll be in range in 14 days, 6 hours. Sang-Ho nodded slowly. New Seoul was a mining colony on a small moon orbiting a gas giant. 12,000 people lived there, most of them families. "Get me governor." The screen flickered, and a tired-looking man appeared. Had been governor of New Seoul for 5 years. He was a good man, Sang-Ho knew, who had turned a rough mining operation into a real community. "Governor, we're sending evacuation ships," Sang-Ho said without greeting. "You have 10 days to get as many people off that moon as possible." His face went pale. 10 days, Admiral, we have 12,000 people here. Children, elderly, sick people. We can't evacuate everyone in 10 days. "Then save who you can," Sang-Ho replied, and he hated himself for saying it. "I'm sorry, I truly am, but this is war and we're not ready for it." Closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they were hard. "We'll do our best, Admiral. New Seoul out." The screen went dark. Sang-Ho turned to his officers. "What else can we do?" "Not much," Min admitted. "Our ships are no match for theirs. Our weapons can't penetrate their shields. The best we can do is evacuate and regroup." "Then that's what we'll do," Sang-Ho said, "for now." On Titan Station, the largest human outpost in the Saturn system, Engineer 1 received the same news. She stood in the reactor control room, looking at the massive fusion cores that powered the station. Around her, other engineers were packing their personal belongings, preparing to evacuate. "One, are you ready?" asked her colleague Young. The last transport leaves in 2 hours. One didn't answer immediately. She was thinking about something, an idea that had been forming in her mind since the warning came. Young, go get on that transport. I'll catch the next one. There is no next one, Young said. This is the last ship. Come on, we need to go. No, one said quietly. You need to go, I need to stay. Young stared at her. What are you talking about? One, if you stay here, you'll die. The Council fleet will destroy this station. I know, one said, turning to look at her friend. That's exactly what I'm counting on. Understanding dawned on Young's face, followed by horror. No, you can't be serious. Listen to me, one said, grabbing Young's shoulders. These fusion reactors, if I modify them in a specific way, I can create a chain reaction. Not just an explosion, but something that tears through space itself. I've run the calculations. If I wait until their fleet is close enough, I can take out dozens of their ships. You'll die, Young whispered. Yes, one agreed. But maybe my death will mean something. Maybe it will show them that we won't just roll over. Maybe it will buy time for others to escape. Young was crying now. Your parents, your brother, they're waiting for you on Earth. One smiled sadly. Tell them I love them. Tell them I died making sure humanity has a future. Now go before I change my mind. Young hugged her tightly, then ran for the transport. One watched from a window as the last ship pulled away from the station, carrying the final refugees to safety. Then she turned back to her work. The modifications took her 6 days. She worked without sleeping much, drinking coffee and eating nutrition bars. The reactor systems weren't designed for what she was planning, and she had to improvise, connecting systems that were never meant to work together. On the 7th day, the Council fleet reached New Seoul. Governor had managed to evacuate 8,000 people, but 4,000 remained, unable to leave in time. The attack was swift and brutal. Energy beams tore through the colony's shields like paper. Buildings exploded. The mines collapsed. Within 3 hours, New Seoul was gone. Survived, watching from an evacuation ship as his colony burned. He would carry that memory for the rest of his life. The Council fleet moved on toward Titan Station. They detected no life signs, and their scans showed the station was abandoned. Perfect for target practice, their commander thought. He ordered his ships to move in close to test their weapons on the station's structure. 47 ships surrounded Titan Station, each one 5 times larger than the station itself. On the flagship, Commander reviewed the tactical display with satisfaction. The humans were running just as predicted. This would be easier than expected. Inside the station, one watched the ships approach on her monitors. Her hand rested on a single button she had rigged up. It was just a simple switch, nothing fancy, but it would trigger the cascade she had spent 6 days preparing. She thought about her family one last time. Her mother, who had taught her to never give up. Her father, who had encouraged her love of engineering. Her younger brother Min, who wanted to be like his big sister. I'm sorry, she whispered to them, even though they couldn't hear her. But this is for you, for all of us. The lead council ships were now less than a kilometer away. One activated her communication system and set it to broadcast on all frequencies. She wanted everyone to hear this, both human and alien. My name is One, she said calmly. I'm a human engineer and I'm a citizen of Earth. Your council called us a valid target. You came to wipe us out, but you need to understand something about humans. We don't give up. We don't surrender. And if you want to kill us, we'll make you pay for every single life you take. She pressed the button. The fusion reactors didn't just explode. They tore reality itself, creating a dimensional rift that expanded in a fraction of a second. The 47 council ships closest to the station were caught in the blast. Their shields, designed to stop conventional weapons, did nothing against the space itself collapsing inward. Ships were crushed, torn apart, or simply ceased to exist. In 5 seconds, 47 of the council's mighty warships were gone. One was gone too, vaporized in the first microsecond of the explosion. But her message continued broadcasting, repeating over and over, "If we're your target, then you're our war." Back on Earth, Admiral Sang-ho watched the sensor readings in silence. Around him, the command center was equally quiet. Finally, Min spoke. "She actually did it," Min said in disbelief. "One person took out 47 of their ships." Sang-ho's jaw was tight. "She gave her life to prove a point. Now we have to make sure it wasn't in vain." He turned to his staff. "The Council thinks we're primitives. They think we'll be easy to destroy. Let's show them exactly how wrong they are." Across human space, the message spread. One's final stand became a rallying cry. Volunteers flooded military recruitment centers. Engineers began adapting civilian technology for war. Scientists worked around the clock on new weapons and defenses. The Council had expected humanity to fold quickly. Instead, they had awakened something fierce and desperate. The war had truly begun, and already the Council was learning their first lesson about humans. When you back them into a corner, they don't beg for mercy. They fight back with everything they have. 6 months had passed since one sacrifice at Titan Station. The war that the Galactic Council expected to win in weeks was still going, and they were starting to worry. In the Council's military headquarters, a massive space station floating near the galactic core, generals and admirals from a dozen species gathered around a holographic battle map. Red markers showed human positions. Blue markers showed Council forces. There was far too much red. "I don't understand," said General, a reptilian creature with scales that changed color when he was stressed. Right now they were flashing orange. "We have superior technology, more ships, better weapons. How are these primitives still fighting?" Admiral, who had lost 47 ships at Titan Station, brought up a series of reports. "They don't fight like any species we've encountered. Look at this. Last week, a human cargo ship rammed one of our destroyers at full speed. It destroyed both vessels." A cargo ship. Scales turned bright red. Why would they waste a cargo ship? "Because they retrofitted it first," explained. "They removed the cargo bays, filled the ship with explosives, and sent it on a collision course with a skeleton crew. 3 humans died to take out a ship worth 100 times more." Another officer, a floating being made of glowing gas, spoke up. "This violates all principles of logical warfare. The resource exchange is inefficient. They lose more than they gain." "That's just it," said. "They don't care about efficiency. They care about making us bleed. Every ship we lose makes our species question this war." Far away, in a secret Council detention facility, they held their first human prisoner of war. Doctor had been captured when her research vessel was ambushed near the border of Council space. She was someone who studied alien minds and behaviors. Now she sat in a clean, comfortable cell while Council interrogators tried to understand humanity. The interrogator today was a creature named, who looked like a large insect but was actually quite intelligent. "Tell me, Doctor," said politely, "why do your people fight so illogically? You must know you cannot win." Smiled. "That's your first mistake. You think war is only about logic and calculations. You think if you have more ships and better weapons, you've already won." "Haven't we?" asked, genuinely curious. "No," said firmly, "because you're not fighting our ships or our weapons. You're fighting our will to survive. And humans, when threatened with extinction, will do absolutely anything to stay alive." "But your tactics make no sense," insisted. "You send civilian ships into battle. You volunteer for missions with no chance of survival. You retrofit mining equipment into weapons. These are the actions of a desperate, dying species." "You're half right," agreed. "We are desperate, but we're not dying, we're adapting. It's what humans do best." Made a clicking sound, their version of a sigh. "Your species confuses us. Our predictive models say you should have surrendered weeks ago." "Then your models don't understand humans," said. Let me tell you something about my people. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us in 1,000 different ways. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, ice ages. We survived all of it by being stubborn, creative, and too foolish to know when we're beaten. In Earth's orbit, Captain Min stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, a ship that had once been a simple cargo freighter. Now it bristled with weapons salvaged from destroyed council ships, human military hardware, and improvised systems that shouldn't work but somehow did. "Captain, we're approaching the target," said his navigator, a young woman named Sora. "Council Supply Depot, Sector 7, just like intelligence said." Min nodded. His crew was a mix of former cargo haulers, colonists, and a handful of military personnel. None of them had formal combat training before the war. Now they were one of humanity's most effective strike teams. "Remember," Min said to his crew, "the Council thinks this depot is safe because it's deep in their territory. They don't expect us to be here. That's our advantage. Hit hard, hit fast, and get out before they know what happened." The Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light travel right next to the depot. Council sensors, calibrated to detect ships coming from human space, didn't even register them until it was too late. Min's crew unleashed everything they had, targeting the depot's power core and fuel storage. "All weapons fire at will," Min ordered. The depot's shields held for maybe 10 seconds. Then they collapsed, and human missiles tore into the station's vital systems. Secondary explosions rippled through the structure. Fuel tanks ignited. The depot began to break apart. "Jump coordinates locked," Sora reported. "Ready to go, Captain." "One more thing," Min said. He activated the communication system and broadcast on all Council frequencies. "This is Captain Min of the Human Defense Forces. You came into our space. You destroyed our colonies. You killed our people. Now we're coming into your space. This is what war looks like when humans fight it. Get used to it." The Indomitable jumped away seconds before Council reinforcements arrived. By the time the Council ships reached the depot, it was a field of debris floating in space. On Luna Base, engineer Bora had been working for 3 months straight on a single project, breaking Council communication codes. She had a team of 12 people, all of them brilliant, all of them exhausted. "I think I've got something," Bora said suddenly, her eyes widening as she looked at her screen. Her team gathered around her station. "The encryption is actually simpler than we thought," Bora explained. "They've been using the same system for so long that they never bothered to update it. I can decrypt their military communications." "Can you listen in on them?" asked her colleague Wu Jin. "Better than that," Bora said with a tired smile. "I can read everything they've sent for the past 6 months. Every order, every report, every strategic discussion." She pulled up the files and started reading. Her smile faded quickly. "Oh no." "What is it?" Wu Jin asked. "They're scared," Bora said quietly. "The Council is actually scared of us. Listen to this report from Admiral. Human forces continue to demonstrate unpredictable behavior. Standard tactical models are unreliable. Species psychology profiles fail to explain their actions. Request guidance on how to proceed against an enemy that operates outside all known parameters." "They don't know what to do with us," Wu Jin said, amazed. "No, they don't," Bora agreed. She kept reading, going through report after report. "Their military strategists are going crazy trying to predict our moves. They keep expecting us to act logically, to make the efficient choice to fight like they would fight. But we don't." She pulled up another document. "Look at this. This is from a Council War College, a classroom discussion. They're using us as an example of how not to conduct warfare. They call us the unreasonable species." "Is that an insult or a compliment?" Wu Jin wondered. "For them, it's an insult," Bora said. "For us, it might be the thing that saves us." She forwarded all the intelligence to Admiral Sang-ho with a simple message. "They don't understand us, and that's our greatest weapon. Meanwhile, Pilot was leading the first human strike on an actual Council world. His squadron of 12 retrofitted fighters dropped out of faster-than-light travel above a planet called Prime, home to 15 million of the Council's bureaucrats and administrators. "Remember, we're not here to hurt civilians," reminded his pilots. "We're targeting their government complex only. Make it precise." The fighters dove through the atmosphere, moving so fast that defenses barely had time to react. They struck the government building with surgical precision, collapsing the central tower but leaving surrounding areas untouched. As they pulled away, broadcast his message. "This is Pilot of Earth. You declared us valid targets. Now we declare you the same. The difference? We're better at it, but unlike you, we don't make war on civilians. This is a warning. End this war or we'll bring it to every Council world." The raid lasted 3 minutes. All 12 human fighters escaped. The message, however, resonated across the galaxy for much longer. In the Council's emergency meeting that followed, representatives from dozens of species argued loudly. Some wanted to escalate the war. Others wanted to negotiate. A few were beginning to wonder if declaring humanity a valid target had been a mistake. For the first time in its 10,000-year history, the Galactic Council was divided. And that division was humanity's victory, even if the war wasn't over yet. 1 year into the war, Colonel Sun led the liberation of New Sol. The colony had been occupied by Council forces for 10 months, and the 4,000 humans who couldn't evacuate had lived under alien rule all that time. Sun's fleet of 20 ships wasn't impressive by Council standards, but they had learned to fight smart. They hit the Council garrison from 3 directions at once, jamming communications and using the Moon's own mountains for cover. "Alpha Team, flank left," Sun ordered from her command ship. "Beta Team, draw their fire. Gamma Team, hit their command center when they're distracted." The battle lasted 4 hours. The Council troops fought well, but they were predictable. They followed their training exactly, which meant Sun could anticipate every move. When the Council commander finally surrendered, the garrison had lost half its forces. Sun's fleet had lost 3 ships. But the real surprise came after the battle. Sun ordered her troops to treat the captured aliens with respect. Medical teams treated their wounded. They were given food and water. Those who asked to contact their families were allowed to do so. One captured soldier, a 4-armed creature named, stared at Sun in confusion. "Why are you helping us? We came here to destroy your people." "Because war is one thing," Sun replied. "Cruelty is another. We're fighting for survival, not revenge." The liberated colonists wept when Sun's troops arrived. Among them was former governor, who had refused to leave even after the evacuation. He had stayed to help organize the resistance and keep people's spirits up. "Thank you," said to Sun, shaking her hand. "We never stopped believing you'd come back." "We never stopped trying," Sun assured him. The liberation of New Sol became big news across both human and Council space. But what really shocked the galaxy was what happened next. Dr. Mi, head of the Prisoner Affairs Division, instituted a controversial new policy. Instead of just holding captured Council soldiers in cells, she created a program to help them understand humanity. Prisoners could attend classes about human culture, watch human films, read human books. Those who wanted could talk with human families via video calls. Many humans were angry about this. "Why should we treat them well when they came to kill us?" people asked. Mi's response was simple but powerful. "Because if we become cruel, if we become monsters, then what are we fighting for? We're showing the galaxy that humans can be better than this war." One prisoner, a pilot named, attended every class Mi offered. He learned about human art, human music, human history. One day, he asked to speak with me privately. "I need to tell you something," said, his voice shaking. "Something the Council doesn't want anyone to know." Mi sat down across from him. "I'm listening." The real reason they declared you valid targets began. It wasn't because you're dangerous. Not really. I saw the classified briefings before the war started. The Council's leaders were scared, yes, but not of human weapons or aggression. Then what? Me asked. They were scared of human ideas, explained. Your species had gone from split tribes to a united world government in just a century. You went from first computers to exploring other planets in decades. The Council has been the same for 10,000 years. No real change. No real growth. Your rapid advancement showed other species that change was possible. Me felt her blood run cold. They declared war on us to protect their power. Exactly, said. If other species saw humans thriving with your chaos and change and democracy, they might start questioning the Council's control. The Council's member species have been stagnant for thousands of years. Your existence threatened that comfortable stagnation. Can you prove this? Me asked. The proof is in the Council's own files, said, but you'd need someone who could access their central intelligence network. Me immediately contacted Admiral Sang-ho. Within hours, they assembled a team for the most dangerous mission of the war. Commander Young-ho had spent his whole career in intelligence work. Now he led a team of 12 specialists on a suicide mission. Their target, the Council's central data hub, located in a heavily fortified station deep in Council space. We're not coming back from this, Young-ho told his team before they left. You all know that, right? His team nodded. They were all volunteers. They all understood what this mission meant. Good, Young-ho said. Then let's make it count. They used a captured Council ship, complete with proper identification codes that Bora's team had created. The approach was nerve-wracking. Council checkpoints scanned them 3 times, but each time their fake credentials held. I can't believe this is working, whispered Dalnim, Young-ho's second in command. Don't jinx it, Young-ho replied. They docked at the data hub station and split into pairs. Young-ho and Dalnim headed for the main server room while the others created distractions and planted charges in case they needed a quick exit. The security on the server room was intense, but Young-ho had studied Council systems for months. He bypassed the locks using techniques he'd learned from captured technology. Inside, rows of crystalline data storage stretched as far as he could see. Start copying everything, Young-ho ordered. Everything about the valid target decision, the meetings, the real reasons, all of it. Dalnim worked quickly, her fingers flying over the Council's interface. I've got it, she said after 20 minutes. Complete files from the year before they declared war, meeting transcripts, psychological profiles, strategic assessments. Young-ho reviewed the files quickly. What he saw made him angry but not surprised. Page after page of Council leaders worrying about human influence spreading. Discussions about how to contain the human problem before it inspired revolution in other species. Plans to eliminate humanity and blame it on natural causes or accidents. They planned this for a year, Young-ho said quietly. A whole year of deciding how to commit genocide. We need to go, Dalnim urged. Security is going to notice us soon. But Young-ho had a different idea. No, we're not just taking this information, we're broadcasting it to everyone. What? Dalnim stared at him. That will bring every ship in Council space down on us. Good, Young-ho said grimly. Let them come. This is more important than us. He accessed the Council's main communication array and uploaded everything. Then he set it to broadcast on every frequency the Council used, to every ship, every station, every planet in their network. People of the galaxy, Young-ho's message began, I am Commander Young-ho of Earth. I am broadcasting from the Council's own data center. What you're about to see are classified files that prove the Council's true reason for declaring war on humanity. They didn't fear our weapons. They feared our ideas. They feared that we would inspire change in a galaxy that has been stagnant for 10,000 years. Judge for yourselves. The files went out across the entire council network. Billions of beings from hundreds of species suddenly had access to information their leaders had hidden. The response was immediate and explosive. On 17 council worlds, protests erupted. Citizens demanded to know why their government had lied. Military units refused orders. Some species began withdrawing their ships from the war entirely. Young Ho and his team tried to escape in the chaos, but council security forces cornered them in the docking bay. A firefight broke out. 5 of Young Ho's team died, including Dal Nim. The survivors were captured, beaten, and thrown in prison. But their mission was complete. The truth was out, and nothing the council could do would put it back in the bottle. In the council's chambers, representatives screamed at each other. Some tried to claim the files were fake. Others admitted the truth but argued it didn't matter. A few species announced they were leaving the council entirely. The ancient crystal being who led the council tried to restore order but failed. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Council was falling apart. And somewhere in a prison cell, Commander Young Ho smiled despite his injuries. They had won, not through weapons or tactics, but through truth. The galaxy would never be the same. The war ended not with a bang, but with a vote. 3 months after Commander Young Ho's broadcast, the Galactic Council officially dissolved itself. In its place rose the Galactic Assembly, a new organization with different rules and different leaders. Ambassador Jin stood before this new assembly, representing humanity for the first time. She wore a simple black suit, and her expression was calm but firm. Around her, representatives from 200 species watched and waited. 100 other species had refused to participate, still bitter about how everything had changed. The assembly's first speaker, a floating being made of light particles, addressed Jin formally. On behalf of the Galactic Assembly, we offer humanity a formal apology for the unjust war declared against your species. We acknowledge the pain and loss you suffered. We acknowledge that the former council's actions were wrong. Jin nodded slowly. I accept your apology on behalf of Earth and all human colonies, but I need to be clear about something. Humanity will never forget what happened. We will never forget one who died trying to warn us. We will never forget one who sacrificed herself at Titan Station. We will never forget the 4,000 colonists who couldn't escape New Sol or the 30,000 humans who died in this war. The chamber was silent. Jin continued. We will join your assembly. We will work toward peace, but we will do so on our terms. Humanity demands 3 conditions. First, no species can ever again be declared a valid target. If a species is judged dangerous, they must be offered help and guidance, not destruction. Second, this assembly must be truly democratic. Every species gets an equal vote, not just the old powerful ones. Third, the assembly must be transparent. No more secret meetings, deciding the fate of entire civilizations. There was murmuring among the representatives. Some seemed uncomfortable with these demands, but others, especially the younger species, looked pleased. The speaker considered for a moment, then said, Your conditions are accepted. Welcome to the Galactic Assembly, humanity. Jin allowed herself a small smile. Thank you. Now let's get to work making sure nothing like this ever happens again. Admiral Sang-ho, who had led humanity's military through the entire war, was promoted to Supreme Commander of Human Defense Forces. But his job now was very different. Instead of fighting, he was building bridges. He stood in a conference room with Admiral, the council officer who had lost 47 ships at Titan Station. The meeting was tense at first. Both men had lost friends in the war. I underestimated you, said finally. My tactical training taught me that war was about numbers and resources. You taught me it was about will and creativity. Sang-ho nodded. And you taught us that we can't solve every problem with stubbornness and sacrifice. Sometimes you need organization and long-term planning. Maybe we can learn from each other. Perhaps, agreed. He hesitated, then said, "I am sorry for my part in what happened. I was following orders, but that is no excuse." "Apology accepted," Sang-Ho said, extending his hand. After a moment, took it. They began working together on a new joint defense initiative. The galaxy still had threats besides internal conflict, and humanity's unconventional thinking combined with Council species' advanced technology created powerful results. On Earth, at the newly established Galactic University, Doctor taught the first mixed species class in history. Humans sat next to aliens, learning together. The course was called Understanding the Human Factor in Galactic Politics. The Council made 3 critical mistakes, told her students on the first day. These mistakes are now required study for anyone in galactic diplomacy or military service. A student, a young creature with tentacles instead of arms, raised a limb. "Professor, what were the mistakes?" "First," explained, "they assumed that because humans were violent, we were only violent. They didn't understand that we contain multitudes. We can be warriors when we must, but we're also artists, teachers, builders, dreamers. We don't fit into simple categories." She pulled up images from the war on the display screen. "Look at these. Colonel Sun liberating new soul, then treating captured enemies with dignity. Dr. Me teaching prisoners about human culture instead of just locking them away. These weren't weak actions. They were strong ones that changed hearts and minds across the galaxy." A human student spoke up. "What was the second mistake?" "The second mistake," continued, "was assuming that their way was the only civilized way. The Council had created a stable galaxy, yes, but stability isn't always good. Sometimes it's just stagnation wearing a fancy mask. They forgot that growth requires change, and change requires a little chaos." "And the third mistake?" asked another alien student. His expression became serious. "The third and most important mistake was that they backed us into a corner. They gave us no choice but to fight for our very existence. And humans, when faced with extinction, become the most dangerous force in the universe. Not because we're the strongest but because we absolutely refuse to accept the unacceptable." She paused, letting that sink in. The Council thought they were being logical. They saw a potential threat and moved to eliminate it, but they forgot to consider what that threat would do when it had nothing left to lose. After class, several students stayed to ask questions. One of them was a young being whose species had lost family in the war fighting on the Council's side. "Professor," the student asked quietly, "do you hate us for what our government did?" Thought carefully before answering. "No, I hate what was done, but I don't hate you. Your generation wasn't responsible for those decisions. What matters now is what you do going forward. Will you repeat the mistakes of the past, or will you help build something better?" The student seemed relieved. Something better, definitely something better. In a hospital on Mars, Engineer One's younger brother Min worked as a doctor. He treated both human and alien patients now. Some of his alien patients had fought in the war. Some had even been at Titan Station when his sister died. It was hard at first. Every time he saw a Council species uniform, he thought about one. But gradually, he realized that most of these individuals had been as trapped by their government's decisions as humans had been. One day, a patient asked him, "Did you lose anyone in the war?" Min nodded. "My sister, she was the engineer at Titan Station." The patient, a Council soldier missing 2 limbs from a combat injury, looked stricken. "I was there. I was on one of the ships. Your sister's action saved my life, actually. My ship was far enough back to survive, but if she hadn't stopped the advance, I would have died in the next battle." Min didn't know what to say. Finally, he managed. She would be glad to know that something good came from her sacrifice, even if it wasn't what she planned. "I tell my children about her," the patient said. "About her bravery, about how one person can change everything." Governor rebuilt New Seoul with help from both human and alien volunteers. The new colony was designed by architects from 6 different species, combining styles and technologies. It became a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. At the dedication ceremony, gave a speech. This colony was destroyed once by fear and hatred. We rebuild it now with hope and understanding. Let it stand as a reminder of what we lost, but also as a promise of what we can become. Commander Young-ho and his surviving team members were eventually released from prison as part of the peace agreement. They returned to Earth as heroes. Young-ho, however, struggled with survivor's guilt. 5 of his team had died, including Dal-Nim. He visited Dal-Nim's family, bringing them her personal effects. Her mother hugged him and said, "She knew the risk. She told me she was doing something important. Thank you for leading her well." "She was the bravest person I knew," Young-ho replied, his voice thick with emotion. Time passed. Years turned into decades. The scars of the war remained, but they healed slowly. Human and alien children grew up together, attending the same schools, playing the same games. A new generation emerged that couldn't imagine a galaxy where species refused to talk to each other. On the 50th anniversary of the war's end, the Galactic Assembly held a memorial service. Representatives from every species attended. They read the names of all who had died, human and alien alike. They planted trees for each life lost, creating a memorial forest on a neutral world. Jin, now old and gray, gave the final speech. "We gather here not to celebrate war, but to remember its cost. 50 years ago, my species was declared a valid target. We fought not because we wanted to, but because we had to. We won not through superior firepower, but through our refusal to give up and our willingness to show mercy even to enemies." She looked around at the assembled beings. "The galaxy is better now than it was 50 years ago. We are more united, more democratic, more open. But this progress came at a terrible price. Let us never forget that price, and let us never again allow fear to push us toward such violence." In a classroom somewhere, a young alien student asked her teacher, "Could it happen again? Could another species be declared targets?" The teacher, who had lived through the war as a child, answered honestly, "It could. Fear and hatred don't disappear just because we want them to. But now we have safeguards. We have humans who won't let us forget what happened. And we have the knowledge that different doesn't mean dangerous." "Are humans still scary?" the student asked. The teacher smiled. "Humans are still fierce when threatened. They're still unpredictable. They still refuse to do things the proper way. But that's not scary. That's just who they are. And the galaxy is richer for having them in it." The student thought about that, then nodded. "I want to visit Earth someday." "Then study hard," the teacher said. "Earth welcomes visitors now. You might even make human friends." High above Earth, in a space station where Admiral Sang-ho now lived in retirement, he looked down at the blue planet below. Ships from a dozen species came and went, peaceful now. Trading ships, tourist vessels, student transports. His grandson, also named one after the fallen ambassador, came to stand beside him. "Grandfather, they want me to join the Galactic Defense Force." Sang-ho turned to look at the young man. "Do you want to?" "I think so," one said. "But everyone keeps telling me stories about the war, about how many died. It makes me nervous." "Good," Sang-ho said. "Being nervous means you understand the responsibility. The Defense Force exists now to prevent war, not start it. That's a worthy goal." "Will there be another war?" one asked. Sang-ho considered the question carefully. "Maybe, maybe not. But if there is, it won't be because someone decided an entire species should be eliminated. We've learned that lesson. We've paid for it in blood. The galaxy won't forget." He put his hand on his grandson's shoulder. "The Council's greatest error wasn't just calling us a valid target. It was thinking they could define what humanity would become. They tried to end our story before it truly began. Instead, we showed them that humans write our own stories. And we write them with courage, creativity, and an absolute refusal to give up." One smiled. "I'll do my best to honor that legacy." "That's all anyone can ask," Sang-Ho replied. As the sun set on Earth far below, casting long shadows across the continents, humanity's story continued. Not as victims, not as conquerors, but as partners in a galaxy that had learned at great cost that diversity makes strength and that every species has something valuable to contribute. The war was over, the lessons remained, and in the end that was humanity's greatest victory.